So it's been a year since we did the LS swap in the van. I got a couple of things to do to it today, so let's get started. So I've got the doghouse out, obviously. My fancy shifter box thingy. It has to move back like that in order to get the doghouse out. That's my computer. Had to put it somewhere. Fuse box is under the seat, mounted off the floor, obviously, but accessible from the outside driver's door, which works really well. But everything has worked out pretty good. I mean, this is probably the first time I've taken the doghouse off in a long time. I don't know if it's been a year, but it's been a long time. I mean, I bet you 9-10 months, I guess. I ran the whole season without opening it. Everything is the way I left it, a little dustier. The cheapy Amazon stainless headers are holding up. All this billet aluminum coil pack bracket is still looking pretty decent. The cheapy coils are still pretty they seem to be working fine. But the reason I am in here is I've had a cylinder or two that's doing some weird rough idle. Seems to be okay when you're on the highway, clears up a bit. So something tells me that there's a dirty injector. I can't even remember 100% what injectors are in there at this point. It's all stock stuff or some, junkyard stuff. But it did have issues. If you go back and look at the first startup after the swap was done, it had some issues running on, 5, 6, 7 cylinders at one point. And I messed around with the injectors and got them going kind of. It was a little rough still, but I figured maybe it would clear out. And honestly, I'm not sure if it ever cleared out. I kind of just got used to the rougher idle, and the only thing is that the gas mileage is not as good as I expected. The O2s aren't working correctly. I've got a couple of codes up for them. They were junkyard O2s. There's some confusion on when the wiring harness was made. They were flat plugs, which I believe are grounded to the body of the O2 sensor, and then one plug was missing, so my guy Josh, who built the harness, put a couple of new plugs on it that I guess he had in stock, which were the square ones. And so the square plugs, I believe, are grounded like in the harness, not the body of the O2 sensor. So there's some things I have to play with there. I'm gonna just switch the plug out, I think, but that's next on the list. But today, I think I'm pulling the injectors out, and I'm gonna give them a cleaning. Maybe even test them, put some power to them, just make sure they're clicking. I was gonna run it this morning and just put something against the injector and listen to it for the clicking sound. I believe I did that before, and they were all good. And the fact that it's running pretty good on the highway, like it seems to run great on the highway, tells me it's probably just a dirty injector. So I'm going to look at them, clean them out, throw some power to them while I'm running some carburetor cleaner through them, and just see if one of them seems to be acting up, and then I'll know that one was probably the problem child. But so I'm gonna do that. What the hell? I'm leaving for a bit of a road trip next weekend. We're going into the Algonquin Park, which is in Canada. It's fairly remote. I mean, there's no gas stations or repair shops for a ways in there, so we want to make sure everything's up to par and see if we can get better gas mileage. Why not, right? So I guess I'm gonna put you guys in a stand, and we'll tear this thing apart. I'll likely go around and retighten things while I'm in here. The exhaust, I've always wondered if it stayed tight. Definitely no leaks or anything like that, which is, well, I was going to say it's a bit surprising, but maybe not. I mean, so I'm hoping I'm not going to get a geyser of gas. It's been sitting overnight, and I think if you let them sit, and I'm not an expert here by any means, but I seem to recall them the pressure fading overnight, so we'll see what happens. Yeah, so no pressure after sitting here overnight. Just barely got my rag wet a bit. But when you take the fuel rail out of there, it's probably going to be full of fuel, so be aware of that so you're not dumping it everywhere. You know, being inside the van here, it's not like you're, you know, I'm not under the hood, so I have to be a little extra careful. There, so fuel lines, fuel pressure regulator hose, and the plugs on the injectors, and it should come out of there. Now there's some wiring and stuff that I'll have to navigate around. Actually, I'll probably remove my I'll have to remove my TV cable bracket that I made because that's going to be in the way. Brought a little bin to maybe catch some of the gas, I guess, when it comes out of there. Alright. So it should come out of there now. There is a bunch of hoses and wires that you have to unplug as well. It's one side. It's the other side. They come off there. It comes off there fairly easy. Now this wiring could be interesting. This is going to be a mess. I know there's going to be gas everywhere. I can see it happening right now. Here it comes. Lean it backwards maybe. There we go. There we have it. All right, so I did the old tire valve stem trick that I got off of YouTube somewhere with the valve cap, drilled a hole in it, and then put the straw for the carburetor cleaner through it. So that's how we're going to put some pressure in there to activate the fuel injector. I made myself a pigtail with an injector plug and a couple alligator clamps on the other end. So we're going to plug this onto there. And then I'm going to take an old peanut butter jar and cut a hole in it so we're not spraying gas all over the place. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I got a hole in there. The plan is I'm just going to sit that on there and put some power to the injector while we're spraying the carb cleaner. There's not meant to be 12 volts, I don't think, going to these injectors. So you're going to want to just kind of, not clamp it on, but just tap on it a couple of times to get some, to get a little bit of juice through them. Hopefully you guys can see that. Seems to be all right. Amazing how dirty it gets inside there. There is a bunch of black stuff that came out that I cleaned up prior to pressurizing the injector. So it's definitely doing something. I'm hoping something stands out in terms of an issue, but a lot of the times it doesn't. And then a little bit of WD-40 on the O-rings before popping them back into the fuel rail, just so you don't, it makes them a little more slippery. Things are always better when they're slippery, you know what I'm saying? Go pop that one in. I wish I could show you the inside of that. It's so filthy. Wonder if it'll show up on the paper towel. Doesn't really show up, but I mean, I don't know if you can see the no, it's not going to show up, but like, I don't know if you see that black ring, but at the inside of that injector is full of whatever that is. Oh, there you go. See how black that is? That's from inside the injector. So it's got to do something to clean the inside of it for sure. Nothing sketchy here. Brake cleaner, carburetor cleaner, electrical components. It's fine. Aha. I think we found the culprit. Oh. So that was, I don't know if you caught that, but that was spraying in a not in a mist, it was just like kind of droplets, and so that might have been our problem injector right there. Holy crap. I don't know if you guys can see that dirt in there. So that's accumulated in the injector. So this is definitely going to help my situation. Yeah, that definitely looks a lot cleaner in there. So I'm just going to keep going like this, and this is not very difficult, and I'm pretty sure anybody could do this. Matter of fact, a trained monkey could probably do this. So anybody who's willing to take out a few bolts, you'll definitely improve the way your engine's running. I mean, that much debris around the injector is such a small area that fuel has to come through. I mean, is definitely going to be affected by anything at all that's in there. So 100%, this is definitely worth doing. Put a little bit of pressure through from the can into the injector, then just top it onto a power source while you're holding the can button depressed. There we go. That's all 8 injectors cleaned in about 20 minutes. No big deal. And there was some dirt that came out, so definitely did something. And again, this is just the tire valve with the cap drilled, a hole drilled in the cap, the core removed out of the valve. You don't leave the core in there. There's nothing in there. If you take the cap off, just a clear hole, you can see through it there. And just drilled a hole in the cap the size of the straw, a tight hole, so the straw you really have to push to get it through. Then you put that over the injector, and you hook up your pig. Real handy if you have a pigtail for an injector here. That's out of another junkyard vehicle. I just cut the pigtail off of it so I have something to plug it into. And look at the filth in there. See how dirty that is? There's actually particles in the bottom floating around. It looks like sand in there almost. So yeah, that's it. Ready to put it back together and give it a test run. Hoping it made a difference. It always ran rough, like it idled rough. Didn't run rough, it just idled rough. So I'm hoping this took care of it for me. Maybe get some better fuel mileage out of it. Because if it wasn't spraying a clean, a nice mist, then the engine wouldn't have been burning or burning it as smoothly as it could have, So I'm gonna go put that back together. So I've reassembled it all. I don't know if this is maybe an hour's work, taking the rail off the engine, cleaning the injectors, and putting it back together. I figure that's probably about what it is. Something I should have probably done, which is tricky to do, is to clean around each injector hole, because I do see a little bit of sand and stuff down there. Now I'm scared to touch anything. I'm going to try to sneak these in there without disturbing anything. I've put WD-40 on all the O-rings so that it'll be easier to kind of slide them in there. And so yeah, let's get this back together. All right, I got everything hooked back up. We'll cycle the fuel pump a few times to make sure that the fuel rail gets filled back up. Just double check there's no leaks anywhere, and then we'll fire it up, see what she does. All right, I'll give her a few cycles. You can hear it filling up that fuel rail. There's quite a bit of fuel in there, so we'll give her a shot. Right away I can see that it's better. I should have got a before video. I didn't, I'm sorry, but the engine was shaking all over the place. Started way better and much smoother. Absolutely big difference. I would suggest, if you've got an LS that's running a little rough, to do as I did. No investment really, other than a can of carburetor cleaner or fuel injector cleaner. I don't know if they sell that in aerosol, but I used carburetor cleaner and worked perfectly. So yeah, very happy with the outcome of that. And pretty easy. I mean, anybody who's able to tinker around a little bit would be able to do what I just did, no problem. So, well, that definitely made a noticeable difference. I'll bet you it was running on 7.5 cylinders before. Improvement in power and idling much smoother. Totally worth doing.